Hey y'all, this is Vicky Connor, co-host of Peak Northwest podcast. This week in Portland has been filled with freezing temperatures, snow, wind, and ice. We hope you are keeping warm. This week, we are revisiting an episode all about camping in cozy cabins and yurts in Oregon state parks. Stay safe, and we'll return next week with a new episode for you.
Hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Jim Ryan, and together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we are spending some time in Oregon's beloved state parks. And Jamie, this is a topic you know a lot about, and I have some recent, though less overall, experience with here.
Jim, I think it's hard to explore Oregon's beautiful outdoor places without winding up at a state park eventually.
Yeah.
I feel like when we talk about some of our most beautiful natural attractions, so many of them are at state park sites. Silver Falls, Smith Rock, Wallowa Lake. Practically the entire Oregon coast.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really sets our state parks apart from those in some other surrounding states, I think, is just the quality of overnight accommodations.
Yeah, Jamie. I love a good day in Smith Rock State Park. I've been out to Wallowa Lake, been to Silver Falls, obviously spent some time at the coast. I have spent only a grand total of one night in Oregon State Park's kind of indoor accommodations, if you will, not a tent site, not a pull through type deal with a camper or an RV, but we're talking cabins, yurts. I know there's no video here, but you can see me air quoting deluxe cabins, deluxe yurts, and Jamie, even teepees. There is a massive amount of really cool spots to stay in Oregon state parks.
Yeah, Jim, I love staying this way. Especially when you're getting into the colder season or the rainier season, you don't necessarily want to sleep outside. Or if you're traveling with people who are not into camping, which is a lot of people, these are great options as well. Or if you're just looking to do something a little bit fancier, this is something that you might technically call glamping.
Oh,
not a word I use particularly often, but I'm not sure if this would qualify necessarily, but I think an argument could be made that this is a good glamping opportunity at state parks.
Yeah, Jamie, I feel like, at least in my experience, it threads the needle well of being a fully comfortable and fully featured accommodation, in the sense of you're going to have a reasonably comfy bed. The deluxe cabin I stayed in recently had great running water, heat, it had a fridge. I slept through the night well and was protected and out of the rain, right? During a kind of rainy season getaway to the coast, which was actually captured for a Peak Northwest video episode, Jamie, to plug the video series a little bit. But it threads the needle well between being a fully featured accommodation and still feeling outdoorsy and fun. Fits perfectly in that, that sweet spot for folks who maybe they are super outdoorsy people, but they just don't really want to sleep in a tent in the wet, chillier season. Or, like you said, the crew where, hey, you've got some friends coming in from out of town. Maybe they are less into getting out and camping in a traditional sense, but a deluxe yurt out on the coast is right up their alley.
Yeah, like my family, for example, this is more of their speed, right? We didn't grow up doing a lot of camping, staying in tents, like my parents are not into that. My sister and her family, they've got a bunch of kids. They prefer just being able to roll up to a yurt, unroll sleeping bags and be able to sleep indoors that way. It's a little bit more of a creature comfort, but again, you're still like waking up under the canopy of trees, or under the big desert sky, wherever you may be, right next to the lake. So you're still out there, but when you're waking up, it's not like checking the tent to see if any water leaked in over the night, or, really huddling up because it's so cold. I mean, you've got a heater in almost all of these situations. Sometimes you got your own bathroom, which is great. There's just really having those little extra creature comforts, I think, goes a long way to adding to the experience for a lot of people.
It is an additive experience, Jamie, because I think you hit the nail on the head, not to just wax poetic about this too much before we truly jump in. But, say you're looking for a place with a true roof over your head. Well, let's travel down the road to the Holiday Inn Express or the Airbnb or whatever, or we can stay right in the thick of things and hang out in a probably cheaper, probably a little bit more unique, in at least some cases, accommodation in a state park. So it puts you right there where you want to be vacationing or checking out. So a hearty recommendation, Jamie. But what, in your experience, is the experience like? What can you expect when you rent out one of these accommodations?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be a little bit different depending on where you're going, how new the cabin or yurt is. Again, whether or not it is one of the deluxe cabins or yurts. And we'll get into some of the difference there in a little bit here. But just to give, an example of sort of my most recent experience, I stayed at one of the newer cabins at Cottonwood Canyon State Park. And yeah, they're nice. They're still rustic cabins. But roll in and they had, a little, concrete area with a picnic table and a fire ring. And actually this one had a gas grill, there, which is a little more unusual. So you walk in and there's like a little living room space, with like a futon. Usually there's a little cabinet where you might find, a little mini fridge, or if you're really lucky, there might be a TV in them. Not usually. A little tiny kind of dining area with a little table. Maybe there's a sink in some nicer ones. More often there's not. Usually a little heater in the room, some lamps, some lights. And then in the sleeping area, what you're usually going to find is, the beds. It's not like a mattress, right? Necessarily. I think about it as more like an upgraded, mat, like you might have slept on when you were a kid, right?
Kind of like a better version or a similar version to like a futon mattress, if that rings a bell to folks. Something you might have slept on, that summer in college. Yeah,
they're kind of harder. They're plastic, right? So, they're easy to clean for the people who work there. So, this is the kind of situation where you bring your own bedding. Right. And that can range from, if you want to bring sheets, you want to bring a little extra padding if you want a softer night of sleep, sleeping bag, pillows. Sometimes I'll just lay something down just over top of it to get a little bit of warmth and just sleep on a sleeping bag on that. It just really depends on what you want to have, how comfortable you want to be sleeping there. So, I tell people bring blankets, bring pillows, bring whatever you need to be comfortable. Because this is an indoor situation with space to put stuff. So you don't have to really worry about like not bringing too much. You're not trying to cram yourself into a small tent. You've got space to spread out a little bit.
That's one of the beauties of this accommodation, right? If you have room in the car, you will in all likelihood have room in the cabin or the yurt, and you can sleep cozily. To use a word that I don't know that I've ever actually said out loud before. You can really enjoy yourself. And on a recent trip that I had in a deluxe cabin at Fort Stevens State Park on the coast, I just rolled out a sleeping bag, brought a pillow, and had a fully comfortable night's sleep. So you can do it up. You can take it easy, but all in all, you have the space to, be as cozy as you so desire.
Yeah. And it's a good opportunity too to, bring games or, bring art projects or bring whatever it is you want to work on that maybe normally you would think, I don't know if I really want to, bring this out at the campsite because I don't want it to get wet or get dirty. You're indoors. And so you can really kind of go camping with a little bit more comfort and have a little bit more, of the amenities that you wouldn't normally necessarily bring to a camping trip.
Yeah, a good example of that, Jamie, is when I was at Fort Stevens with our colleague who's been here on the show, Cale Williams, and videographer colleague, Vicky Connor. We went out for a Peak Northwest video shoot. We had Vicky's dog, Stella, we cooked up a meal that I normally wouldn't in kind of a tent camping situation, because we had a standard outdoor gas grill. We bought brats, we purchased some veggies, and made kind of a really delicious, though super simple meal, because we didn't have to mess around with a camp stove. We didn't have to worry about, well, oh geez, we're out in the backcountry. Now we have some food waste that we don't want to carry around with us. It was all very simple. And I think that is kind of the through line of these cabins, these yurts. The experience, while fully featured, is incredibly simple, and you can bring with you what you need, what you want to elevate the experience a little bit over a tent camping type situation.
Exactly. It's kind of that combination camping experience plus, maybe a hotel. You get kind of the best of both worlds. And I think that's why these have been such a successful operation for the state parks, and very popular as well. These are places where if you're trying to go on a holiday weekend or a weekend in general, especially in the spring or summer, you're going to want to make those reservations early, as soon as you can and are able to, because these book up real fast. And Jim, you mentioned pricing earlier. These, I think you said, might be less expensive. I think in almost all cases, this is less expensive than staying in a hotel, certainly than an Airbnb. So, we're talking for like a rustic cabin or a yurt, about $42 to $62 a night. That's, a little bit more than a campsite, but that's way less than you're going to pay for a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah. That's what I would classify as a slamming good deal. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we were at our deluxe cabin, which I don't remember the price structure of off the top of my head here, we had a bunk bed in one room that, depending on your level of comfort, I believe the bottom bunk was a larger bed than the top. I might be wrong on that. I forget exactly. But then there was another kind of fold out futon style deal in the kind of main living area. So we very comfortably slept 3 people and a pretty significant sized pup in our deluxe accommodation there. And reasonably, you could squeeze in some more. So if you're splitting prices or going with the family, pretty good bang for your buck, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, you mentioned, sleeping multiple people in there. So I do have the details here on that. So when you're looking at rustic cabins, those sleep anywhere from 4 to 6 people per cabin, which is a lot. Yurts will sleep 5 people. With that situation, like you said, Jim, where you've got usually a bunk bed, and you're right, the bottom bunk is usually can fit 2 people. The top one can fit 1. Okay. And that futon unfolds, and that can fit 2 more people on there. So I love 3 people in a yurt because each person kind of gets their own space. But if you have a couple, or if you have kids or family, you can sleep 5 in there, no problem. The deluxe cabins and yurts are going to be between $81 and $99 a night.
Yeah.
So a little bit more expensive, but still a really good deal.
I thought that was extremely competitive in the sense that you are right in the thick of where you want to be. You don't have to hop back in the car and drive into the town or into the city. And reasonably, I would rather be in one of these than a standard hotel room, personally.
Absolutely.
If that's your one-to-one choice, some sort of home rental is probably the main competitor with these accommodations, that and just standard camping, I would imagine. I think the value is there. I think the quality, at least in my singular experience, was there. I think it's a good deal.
It's an excellent deal. Jim, we've talked about this, rustic cabins versus deluxe cabins. I think it's probably a good opportunity sort of to talk a little bit more about what does this deluxe mean? Anyway?
Our air quotes here.
Yeah, I feel like there might be some people who are a little skeptical, but like, okay, I hear. Well, how deluxe are we talking here? So what we're basically looking at in a deluxe cabin is, I think that the big seller is private bathroom with a shower. So otherwise, if you're staying in one of these rustic yurts, you are going out to the campground bathroom, the campground shower, which for a lot of folks, hey, it's no problem. We're used to that going camping. No big deal. Some folks really want their own bathroom, and that is A-okay. And this is the option for you if that's what you want.
This came in handy, Jamie, not to interrupt, but Vicky's dog, Stella, when we were out on the coast at Fort Stevens, she had, she was, to use, I think, Vicky's language here, she was partying on a dead animal on the beach. She did a little rolling. And it was a situation where we didn't really want to hang with Stella until she got a bath.
Yeah.
And or some sort of hose down. And I will say, in our deluxe cabin, the shower situation, the bath situation for Stella was very easy, and Vicky had that handled in no time. So, if you're bringing a pet with you, that is a consideration. Of course, if pets are allowed where you're going, which you have to check, check each individual place. But anyhow. Just a small endorsement for the private shower.
There are specifically pet-friendly yurts and cabins. So yeah, like you said, Jim, look for those when you're booking. Make sure that this is a pet-friendly situation. So hey, deluxe cabins and yurts, great for when your dog gets into something weird on the beach.
100%.
Also, another great feature I think a lot of people enjoy is that they usually also come with a kitchenette with a fridge and microwave, as well as propane and electric barbecue grills. So this is a great cooking option for folks who want to. I mean, honestly, even having a microwave ups your cooking options immensely. Being able to just throw something in there if you don't want to, have to hassle with cooking something over a stove or even a grill. You got a microwave right there. And having like a fridge as well is just, I think, huge. Don't worry about keeping stuff in the cooler outside, or wherever. You've got somewhere you can keep all your food nice and cold.
Absolutely. So, Jamie, I found I was lacking for nothing that I actually needed. And you referenced this earlier, but for folks who want to get cozy and watch a scary movie or settle in and watch a holiday flick, the deluxe cabins do have a TV with a DVD player. Though the state parks does mention those are not available everywhere. So maybe don't count on it 100% or take a look ahead of time. All that is to say, Jamie, the rustic cabins are what you would imagine, a slimmed down version of what we've just described. So looking at how the state parks describes these here, we've got, bunk bed or beds, futon couch or double bed with those same mattresses and just a table and chairs, right? We're not talking fridge. We're not talking TV. You don't have your own bathroom. But you do have the same general structure and accommodations for folks here.
Yeah. And Jim, I think one of the great things about these cabins and yurts that we haven't really gotten too far into is just how widely available they are. This is not a situation where you can find these at like a couple parks here and there. You can find these everywhere around the state. Like literally every corner of the state, you can find a cabin or a yurt. The Oregon State Parks Department has a map that shows every park where there is a cabin and or a yurt. And we're talking basically the entire Oregon coast.
Yeah, tons down the Oregon coast.
Bend area. So, Tumalo State Park and Lapine State Park. A couple in the Portland area. Shampooey and Milo McIver. Silver Falls has some cabins, and they're adding some more cabins at Silver Falls, which is great. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, Cottonwood Canyon, which is a great spot out there, just off the gorge. Wallowa Lake has got some out there. Owyhee State Park in far eastern Oregon. You've got places just everywhere. So if you're looking for that kind of creature comfort when you're out there, you can find it pretty much any kind of landscape you're looking to go in Oregon.
And I love too, a lot of folks, how we camped as kids, Jamie, is we were not a tent camping family. We had a tow behind trailer. My dad drove a pickup truck and still drives pickup trucks. And we would tow behind a camper. I'm one of three boys. Mom and dad would have a bed. The three boys would have bunks. And that was, that's a pretty substantial operation that requires a vehicle that can tow and the trailer itself. This harnesses the same general idea of comfort. Probably higher comfort, honestly, depending on the quality of your trailer or RV. And, it's pretty cheap, all things considered. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to own a big trailer, a big truck, or, strong SUV in order to make it happen. And geographically speaking, like you said, so diverse, everywhere from Wallowa Lake to Fort Stevens to Harris Beach in very southern Oregon. I mean, you are covering the whole state here with just a humongous concentration near the coast. So especially if you enjoy getting out there, and Jamie, I know how you love it out there this time of year, it is a good way to make that happen. All of that said, Jamie, I want to hear some more about some of your favorite experiences staying in cabins and yurts at Oregon State Parks. But first, we are going to take a short break. All right, folks, we are back talking about accommodations in cabins and yurts at Oregon State Parks. And Jamie, as we all know, you travel a lot for work and, of course, for fun as the Oregonian's Travel and Outdoors reporter. And you've spent a fair number of nights in these accommodations at Oregon State Parks. So pull back the curtain for us a little bit, my man. What are some of your favorites here?
Well, we mentioned Cottonwood Canyon already. I love that state park. And I've stayed in the cabins there, I think 2 or 3 times now at this point. And I love that experience. Just waking up and being able to just get right onto the trail there, and walk right into the canyon is just a beautiful experience. Seeing some sunsets there out in the desert. I love that. I love staying in the yurts in the wintertime on the Oregon coast. So, I mean, if you want to go see some state parks and stay overnight there in, the rainy season, boy, I'm not a big fan of camping in that kind of rain. A spring drizzle here or there. Yeah, no, it's, when it's just that constant wetness, and you're just in the tent and it's, dripping through a little bit, and I don't love it. So, I mean, like we said, the yurts are inexpensive. If you catch one in the off season on a weekday, you can usually find one. So the experience is just of being able to be warm, to be cozy, to be out of the rain, and to still be like right there within walking distance of the beach. I love that. So I've stayed at some of the yurts at Fort Stevens. Really enjoyed that experience, being able to walk out there, right to the beach, or, Cape Lookout. Same situation. They've got some yurts, and they've got some nice cabins there at Cape Lookout as well that are just right there, like steps from the ocean, which I love.
And to cover the whole state, Jamie, I believe you had talked about on a previous episode of the show, really enjoying a cabin experience at the Cove Palisades in Central.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that was a great experience. I think one of my favorite. Can't believe I almost forgot it. This is a place that's known for its lake and for the boating on the lake. So, we go in the summertime, there's just motorboats like crazy out there. So not necessarily serene and peaceful if that's what you're looking for, which a lot of times for me, it is. But if you go in the off season when boating is no longer an option, you can stay in the cabins. There's a couple of them that are right there on the lake, just on the lake shore. And I went in a weekday I want to say it was in October, and I had the entire place to myself. There was no one else staying in the cabins that day. It was like a Wednesday or something. And so I was just basically alone on this lake, and just sat out there, made a fire in one of the fire pits outside the cabins, and just watched like the moon slowly cross over the lake, listen to the weird sounds of whatever kinds of animals are out there. Just an absolutely stellar experience. And that's the kind of thing you can get, especially again, with the caveat of weekday off season. You can especially get out there, have the comfort, have the luxuries, and still be out there in the thick of things.
That's the coolest part of all of this, I think. I've got my eye on going out to Wallowa Lake in northeastern Oregon and snagging one of their accommodations, right off the lake, an area that I just love. Many people love. It's, extremely popular, extremely beautiful. But that's on my radar for places to go visit.
Jim, I think I'm looking at going to check out the Deluxe Yurts. It's the one kind of yurt cabin experience I've not experienced. They only have them at Umpqua Lighthouse State Park. That's the one place you can find Deluxe Yurts. Deluxe cabins, you can find them everywhere, but I would love to have the Deluxe Yurt experience.
Do you have a reporting trip on the horizon? I know you've done West Oregon beaches, and I think you only have Southern Oregon left, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right. Yeah, down to Southern Oregon for the best beaches. But I've got some stuff that's kind of in the in the area, the vicinity, then I might try to finagle a trip to a deluxe yurt out of as well. It's a great little campground there. It's kind of nestled in the forest. Some of my favorite cabins are right there in Umpqua Lighthouse State Park. So it's a nice place to stay, whether you're doing a deluxe yurt or a regular yurt or a cabin or whatever.
Man, well, you'll have to report back, Jamie, in the event that you do check out one of the deluxe yurts. I think I've said deluxe now more times in the last 40 minutes than I have said like this, at least this whole year, I would have to imagine. It's just not a word that's a regular part of my vocab.
No.
And we're really working it in here. You watch, I'm going to be saying like deluxe all week.
Oh yeah, it's going to be like your latest slang word. Oh, that's so deluxe.
So deluxe, man. Our editor is probably just like shaking his head, listening on this. Here goes Jim on another tangent. Well, Jamie, all that is to say, this has me pretty psyched on these accommodations, and it is high season to really take advantage of this. When it is rainy, when it's wet, when it's a little bit chillier, it makes these accommodations all more sweet, all more really practical, because in the summertime, I'm pretty happy sleeping in a tent. In early fall, I'm pretty happy sleeping in a tent. Springtime, maybe on a day that's not so wet, sure, let's do it. But full winter time, temps dipping into the 30s or less, some constant rain, some drizzle. I'm ready to hide out from the elements. And this is, above all, a great way to do that on a pretty good budget and pretty close to what you want to do.
And that said, Jim, the cabins and yurts are just so crazy busy in the summertime, in those busy travel seasons. So if you want to get them for not the off season, my public service announcement is book early, book right now for the spring, book right now for the summer. If you know your travel plans, just pull the trigger and go for it, because otherwise someone else is going to beat you to the punch.
Yep. To mix metaphors there, we're pulling triggers and punching. And the Oregon State Park says that you can make a reservation 1 day to 9 months in advance by visiting OregonStateParks.org or calling a phone number. We will link to how to do that in the show notes here. But folks, until next time here on the show, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at Peak Northwest, and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel. Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast and our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details, of course, at OregonLive.com/pod support. This episode of the show is produced by me, Jim Ryan, alongside Jamie Hale and Andrew Thien.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.